The will was read on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, every man in town was laughing. They said Elias Morrow inherited nothing but bad luck and barren earth. 22 acres on the dead edge of Harlan County, Kentucky. Land so rocky and steep that goats had given up on it. A broken salt operation nobody had touched in 11 years, and a debt of $31 his father never bothered to pay. His brothers got the sawmill, the cattle, the good river-bottom land. Elias got the joke. But here is what nobody knew that Tuesday. The land was not dead. It was waiting. February 9th, 1873 was the kind of cold that doesn't apologize. Frost laced the windows of the Harlan County clerk's office. The stove in the corner threw heat that barely made it 3 feet before the air swallowed it whole. Elias Morrow sat in the back row, not by accident, by habit. He had spent 34 years learning how to occupy a room without being noticed. He was the kind of man people described by what he lacked. No wife, no property, no visible ambition. 8 years working as a surveyor's assistant across 3 counties, sleeping in boarding houses, reading geological pamphlets by lamplight. He was quiet, he was patient, and he was, though no one in that courtroom would have used the word, brilliant. His father, Harlan Morrow, had died of a fever in January, 66 years old, a hard man, not cruel, the kind of father who measured love in acreage and told his sons they were fine by not saying otherwise. The attorney read the will with the flat efficiency of a man who had done this 1,000 times. Brother Robert got 200 acres of prime timber, worth $3,000 easy. Brother James got 63 head of cattle and grazing rights on the richest meadows in the county. Then the attorney cleared his throat. To my youngest son, Elias Jacob Morrow, I leave the Crooked-Back parcel, 22 acres on the east slope of Blind Horse Ridge, including the former Loomis salt operation and all structures therein. I also leave him $9 in coin and my surveying compass. Silence. Then Robert's wife made a sound, not a laugh, not a cough, somewhere between the two. Far too deliberate to be either. Elias folded his copy of the will, placed it inside his coat, shook the attorney's hand, and walked out into the February cold without looking at anyone. The Crooked-Back parcel sat 4 miles east of town, up a trail that narrowed to a suggestion before it quit entirely. The land was everything they said it was: steep, rocky, scraped bare. The old salt operation was a wreck, 2 collapsed wooden structures, a rusted iron kettle, and a hand-dug shaft timbered with wood rotted to black. Elias stood at the edge of that shaft and dropped a stone. He counted. 1, 2, 3, 4. The sound came back wrong. Not the flat crack of stone hitting stone. Something softer, wetter, and beneath it a warmth on his face that had no business being there in a February wind that cut like a blade. He crouched at that shaft's edge for a long time. He had read about geology like this. His surveyor's mind was already moving, already measuring what his eyes could see against what the earth beneath his boots was quietly telling him. He spent the night in the broken salt house with a small fire and his father's compass. He didn't sleep much. He was thinking too hard. By morning, he had a theory. By the end of the week, he had begun to prove it. He used his $9 to buy rope, a hand drill, a second-hand lamp, and enough cornmeal and salt pork to last 3 weeks. He went down alone, 40 feet, 50. The limestone walls shifted to something darker, wetter, a stone that wasn't limestone at all. Then the wall gave way. Not violently, like a door,
3 feet of rock simply leaned outward, and behind it was air. Warm air, moving air, air that smelled faintly of sulfur and minerals and something ancient and sweet. Elias pushed his lamp through the gap. The chamber beyond was large enough to hold a house. Its ceiling arched 15 feet above, draped in formations that caught the light and shattered it into colors he had no words for: rust, cream, deep green-gray, and rising from the floor in thick white columns, salt crystal, pure, massive, undisturbed. A primary formation centuries old, commercially viable at a scale that made his hands shake. But Elias didn't think about money first. He thought about the warmth. The air down here was constant, steady as a held breath. He pressed his palm to the floor. The stone radiated heat the way a hearthstone holds warmth long after the fire goes to coals. He pulled out his father's compass. The needle spun once, settled. He looked at it long time. Then he looked at the ceiling, the walls, the crystal formations rising around him like a cathedral nobody had ever prayed in. He said one word aloud, to nobody. There. Right now, someone watching this is sitting on their own version of Crooked-Back Ridge, their own dismissed inheritance, their own 22 acres of nothing. If that's you, do not go anywhere, because what happens next was made for you. And if this is your first time here, hit subscribe. We tell the stories history forgot every single week. By October, Elias had extracted enough salt crystal to fill 6 barrels. He sold 3 quietly to a merchant in Pineville. The price per pound was 4 times what the Loomis operation had charged, because this salt was different, purer. The merchant asked where it came from. Elias said eastern Harlan County, and left it at that. He told no one what he had found. Not yet. Then the winter came.
The winter of 1873 into 1874 descended in November like something that had been planning it. Temperature dropped and did not recover. Snow accumulated in the quiet, patient way of something that intends to stay. The Cumberland River froze solid enough to drive a wagon across by December. By January, people were dying. Not dramatically, quietly. In farmhouses that ran out of wood, in boarding houses where the heat failed. Elderly men and women, children. A schoolteacher named Ora Sutton found frozen in her own kitchen on the morning of January the 3rd. Elias heard about Ora Sutton 3 hours after they found her. He stood in the cold outside the general store, stood still for a long time. Then he went to find the county sheriff. He said, "I have a place. It's warm underground. Bring whoever needs it." The sheriff looked at him, looked at the sky, looked back. How many can it hold? Elias thought about the main chamber, the formation room beyond, the 2 passages he hadn't fully explored. Enough, he said. 31 people came the first night. Farmers, widows, 2 families with young children whose roofs had caved under the snow weight. They came skeptical and cold and running out of better options. Elias led them down with ropes and lanterns. When they reached the chamber, they went silent. Every one of them. Because the warmth was real, because a dozen lanterns striking crystal formations 15 feet high set the whole chamber glowing like the inside of a coal ember. Because after weeks of wind that made even thinking feel dangerous, the stillness was almost unbearable in its relief. A woman named Margaret Boone, 61 years old, born and raised in Kentucky, never underground farther than a root cellar, sat down on the stone floor and put her face in her hands. She wasn't crying. She was praying. They stayed 11 days. Elias built sleeping platforms from salvaged timber. He rationed the lamp oil so the light never fully went out. He showed them where the mineral spring ran through the eastern passage, clean, safe water that tasted faintly of that same deep salt the Loomis family had drilled right past in their hurry. 31 people went down. 31 came back up. When the thaw broke in late February, they emerged blinking into gray light, stiff, disoriented, and alive. Every single one. Here is what Elias Morrow never told anyone, not for 20 years. He almost didn't come back to the Crookback parcel. After the will reading, after walking into the February cold. He had ridden east with every intention of selling the land, whatever it would fetch, move on, keep surveying, keep being the man nobody noticed. He had stopped on the trail to rest the horse, and sitting there, he pulled out his father's compass. Not to check direction, he knew exactly where he was. He pulled it out because it was the one thing his father had given him that felt like it meant something. The needle shifted. Not wildly, just slightly, inconsistently with the direction he was facing. A surveyor knows what that means, magnetic anomaly, something in the ground below. He turned the horse around, rode back, went down the shaft, and found everything. The warmth, the salt, the crystal formation, the shelter that saved 31 lives, all of it found by accident, by a man sitting still long enough to notice something small do something strange, by the youngest son, the quiet one, the one they handed a joke. He said nothing about this until 1893, when a geology professor from Lexington came to study the formation and asked Elias, 54 now, slow-moving, unchanged in his manner, how he had found it. Long pause. "My father gave me a compass," he said. "I paid attention to what it told me." Elias Morrow died in 1901. He never built himself a house above ground that amounted to much. He lived most of his life in 3 rooms carved into the stone at the edge of his own property. Warm, dry, exactly as he wanted it. His brother's operations had struggled by the 1880s. The timber thinned, the cattle market shifted. Robert sold the mill in 1887 for a fraction of what it had been worth. James moved to Ohio. Neither ever asked Elias for help. He never offered it in a way that required them to admit they needed it. But he left the door of his underground home open. Always. His grave sits on the east slope of Blind Horse Ridge, plain stone, long view. On clear mornings, the sun hits it before it hits the valley below, and the warmth is the first thing you feel when you approach it. Beneath that grave, the crystal formation still stands, the salt still runs, the spring still moves through stone channels older than any deed or will or attorney's cramped legal script. And on the wall of the first chamber, near the place where Margaret Boone once sat down and prayed, there is a small brass compass mounted to the stone. The needle still points the same direction it pointed the day Elias first noticed it shift on a cold trail in February of 1873. Down. Always down. There is always more beneath the surface. You just have to stop long enough to feel it. If this story stayed with you, you already know why. It's not really about salt or crystals or a Kentucky winter. It's about what happens when you refuse to believe that what you were handed is all you deserve. Elias didn't fight his brothers. He didn't beg for recognition. He went quiet. He went deep. And he found something nobody else had the patience to look for. If you watched this all the way to the end, you're already that kind of person. Subscribe, because next week we have another story exactly like this one. A different name, a different century, the same truth. There's always more to find. Always.